Good evening. Welcome to the August 19th City Council meeting. I am Gina Louise Shara. I'm the City Council President, and I will be presiding this evening. This meeting and all participating on Zoom will be audio and video recorded. We'll begin with public comment. Then after public comment, we will convene the meeting. If you wish to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature. The raise hand feature is in the bottom menu bar under reactions, or it's at the bottom of the participants panel, which opens if you click on participants at the bottom of the screen. If you're calling in by phone, you can raise your hand by hitting *9. If you're having trouble raising your hand, you may use the chat feature to send a message to me. To ensure equal access and because of open meeting law, technical problems such as not being able to raise your hand are the only thing the chat function will be used for and will only be available during public comment. We cannot accept comment or commentary over chat. Private chat or chat only visible on Zoom during a public meeting is antithetical to an open public process, in violation of the council rules for public participation, and violates the spirit and potentially the law of open meeting law. If you want to submit a written public comment, please email it to citycouncil@northamptonma.gov. It'll be sent to all councilors and will be part of the public record. I'll unmute each raised hand in the order raised to make a comment. Before you begin, please state your name and your city or town for the public record. To ensure everyone has equal opportunity to speak, the council limits comments to 3 minutes. You're in no way obligated to use the full 3 minutes, but if you do, after 3 minutes, I'll ask you to please finish your sentence. According to council rules, we do not respond during public comment as it is your time to speak. So while your comments should be directed to us, you'll understand when we don't respond to you. Our rules also state that councilors and members of the public shall conduct themselves with civility and respect at all times. Your protected speech is a constitutional right and one that we ask you to wield with consideration and respect for all, and with recognition that the public space that grants you that freedom is shared equally by everyone. Also, according to open meeting law, if someone is disrupting a meeting, they may be removed. You may speak on any topic. It doesn't need to be an item on the agenda. I ask that all but the council turn off your video until called upon. Only the person recognized has the floor, and all comments are to be directed to the council. The meeting can also be watched on channel 15 or by streaming on Northampton Open Media's YouTube channel and other platforms. The recording of this meeting will be available at Northampton Open Media's Government Video Archive channel on YouTube, and I thank them, as always, for that public service. First up for public comment is Pamela Schwartz.
Hi, good evening. My name is Pamela Schwartz. I'm from Northampton, and I'm former city councilor, as some of you may know, and it's an honor to be here in front of you. And I'm here actually in my capacity as director of the Western Massachusetts Network to End Homelessness and as a citizen of Northampton in support of the resolution you'll be considering tonight. Thank you to Councillor Jarrett and Councillor Thorpe and Councillor Quinlan for submitting this resolution in support of the Act to Prevent Evictions and Foreclosures, known also as the COVID-19 Housing Equity Bill, House 1434 and Senate Bill 891. I just really want to applaud the consideration of this, urge you to adopt it unanimously as a council, urge it to go through 2 readings because time is of the essence right now, as we have over 2,000, close to 3,000 eviction filings in Western Massachusetts alone, with over 200 in Hampshire County alone, with not enough protection to protect against these evictions and foreclosures. In addition, foreclosures are going unprotected during this Delta variant spike. And this bill that is being considered by the legislature is the response to this crisis. It is useful to tenants and homeowners to protect them against eviction foreclosure. And it is useful to landlords, particularly small landlords who are in need of resources. The federal dollars are there for rental assistance. We just need the time to create the time and space to get those dollars to small landlords for the back rent due as a result of COVID-19. So this bill has a tremendous sense of urgency to it. We have there was a public hearing on it last week. We have our own mayor going on record in support. We have our legislators, Senator Comerford and Representative Sabadosa, and 19 other legislators in Western Massachusetts. We have the Boston City Council and the Springfield City Council passing similar resolutions. It would be fantastic for Northampton to go on record in support of this urgent need to protect people from eviction and foreclosure during this time. So thank you very, very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Next is Pennington Geis.
Hi, thank you. Penny is fine, even though it doesn't say that on the screen. I'm here because I live in Northampton in the Leeds Village, and I'm president of the Leeds Civic Association. You have an item about the Hotel Bridge on your agenda tonight. And while I realize that is merely transferring money into that account, which is sort of a routine thing, but I want to use it as an opportunity to say thank you. I have talked to a lot of people in Leeds. Today I met a new person who's lived here his entire life. Everyone is excited about this project. Everybody is for it. And it has been such a delight to work with the DPW department head, Donna I can never say that right, Lascalia. She has collaborated with us in so many ways, and this is a big one. The people who have grown up here are just so excited that this bridge is going to be open again. Originally, this bridge was a pedestrian bridge. Now it will be a pedestrian and bicycle bridge. There were years when it was open to traffic, but it wasn't really built for that. And we're just excited to be having it open to pedestrians and bicycles. So thank you for considering this. I hope it's a no-brainer.
Thank you very much. Next is Ezekiel Baskin.
Hi, everyone. I agree with what Pam Schwartz said wholeheartedly and hope that you pass that resolution unanimously. I just wanted to speak briefly about the structure for council meetings for the rest of the term. I just wanted to voice my support for continuing to meet remotely given the rise in cases due to the Delta variant, which is certainly hitting Hampshire County now and Hampton County very hard, and just to urge you all to continue meeting remotely as I think the safest option moving forward for the sort of near future. That's all. Thank you all for everything you do as always.
Thanks. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, I see no other hands. Just gonna take a quick scan through. And no one seems to be having trouble. So I see no further public comment. So will you please take the roll?
Sure. Councillor Dwight.
Here.
Councillor Foster.
Here.
Councillor Jarrett.
Here.
Councillor Labarge.
Here.
Councillor Maori.
Here.
Councillor Nash.
Here.
Councillor Quinlan.
Here.
Councillor Shara.
Here.
And Councillor Thorpe.
Here.
Madam President, you have a quorum. Excellent, thank you. Okay, our first item this evening is an announcement of a public hearing. This is a public hearing on administrative order by the order of the City Council. The Northampton City Council will hold a public hearing by remote participation on Thursday, September 2nd, 2021 at 7:05 p.m. Instructions for accessing the hearing may be found on the September 2nd, 2021 City Council agenda to be posted on the city website, which is northamptonma.gov, at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. City Council will consider proposed amendments to the City of Northampton Administrative Code, Part 1, Administrative Organization, Section 2.04, Office of the City Clerk. City Council will hear all persons who wish to be heard thereon, and the City Council meeting begins at 7 p.m. Okay, and next up, do we have any committee chair updates? Councillor Dwight.
Yes, I do.
It's actually not as in my capacity as chair, but in relation to the hearing you just announced, and it's just a request of the mayor when his time comes up, if he could relate to us and the public the final disposition of at least the charter review, the charter amendments that were sent forward that were approved. There's still some pending, but if he could address those when the time comes, that'd be great.
We will ask him that. Councillor Labarge.
Yes, thank you. I just want to announce that city service will be held on September 8th, 4:00 p.m. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Counselor Maori?
The Select Committee on Council Rules will meet this Monday at 4, correct, Laura?
At
So,
6 p.m.
6 p.m. I'm glad you, I'm glad we checked. So August 23rd, this Monday at 6 p.m.
Excellent. Okay, can we move on into 1-minute announcements? Counselor Jarrett.
Hi, everyone. So Florence Night Out returns on Saturday, September 25th from 4 to 10 p.m. Downtown Florence will be filled with live music from local bands. There will be an open air artisan market, interactive family-friendly events, art installations, film screenings. I'll be there helping out Mass Bike with their valet bike parking. So please come and join us.
Excellent. I'm looking for any other announcements. Okay, seeing none. Mayor Narkowitz, there was a request for some information. I don't know if you feel ready to do that now.
I can certainly do it under during announcements of the mayor if you wish. It's not a problem.
That's where we are.
Okay, great. So just by way of update on Friday the 13th, which was last Friday, Governor Baker did sign into law Chapter 40 of the Special Acts of 2021, which was the charter changes, the sort of the base package of the many technical changes that the Charter Review Committee had recommended unanimously, and that the council and mayor had approved and sent to the state legislature, where they kind of percolated for many, many months. And then there was a mad scramble in the last 2 weeks that we needed to get signatures and attestations and letters and some small grammatical changes. And I want to thank Representative Savadosa and Senator Comerford and their staffs for helping us shepherd these literally back and forth once between the House and the Senate, and then getting them to the governor's desk. And we were hoping to get them signed prior to the 17th, which was sort of the deadline for candidates to remove themselves from the ballot. And so it was signed on the 13th. And so one of the key changes was, of course, the city clerk being changed from an elected to an appointed position. So the city clerk had filed papers not knowing whether these changes would happen or whether they would happen in time. So those did go into effect. And then several of the other technical changes to the charter also went into effect, including some of the changes around the name of the Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School trustees and the method of selecting replacements, for Forbes Library trustees, and a number of other technical changes that the committee identified during their process. There are still other aspects of the Charter Review Committee's work that were filed, as you know, as separate measures. Those for the 16-year and older voting, voting by non-citizens under Mass General Law, and ranked choice voting is obviously being studied further before we actually submit that. So, but at least the main charter changes have now been approved and signed into law. And the city clerk has sent those to general code, and those will hopefully be updated and incorporated into the charter online shortly. But you can find it on the state legislature's website under their special session laws page, and it's Chapter 40 of the Acts of 2021.
Thank you. Councilors, do you have any questions before we move on? Okay, thank you, Mayor Narkowitz.
Welcome.
Stay on that. Next up, we have resolutions. 21.315, a resolution relative to COVID-19 housing security. This is on first reading. I'm going to read it. This is upon the recommendation of Counselor Alex Jarrett, Counselor John Thorpe, and Counselor Michael Quinlan. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has left tens of thousands of Massachusetts residents in a health, economic, and housing crisis. Whereas the temporary federal eviction moratorium is set to expire on October 3rd, is vulnerable to legal challenge, and as written still leaves thousands of tenants at risk of eviction. Whereas current state protections, Chapter 257 of the Acts of 2020, provide some safeguards against evictions, but they do not go far enough to keep tenants housed. Whereas no federal or state law currently exists to provide any protections against foreclosure. Whereas over 2,700 new eviction cases have been filed in Western Massachusetts since the lifting of the state eviction moratorium in October 2020, over 20,000 statewide, and 585 homes in Western Massachusetts face the threat of foreclosure. Whereas 45% of Northampton households are rented. Whereas the economic crisis in general and the eviction crisis in particular created by the COVID-19 pandemic continues to have a disproportionate effect on communities of color and low-income individuals across Massachusetts. And whereas the federal government has allocated over $800 million in rental assistance to the Commonwealth, with only a fraction of those funds having yet reached eligible tenants. And whereas Western Massachusetts' largest administrator of rental assistance, Wayfinders, reports receiving 400 to 500 applications for rental assistance per week, as many as 100 per day, with an application processing time of 4 to 5 weeks. And whereas taking this public health emergency out of the courts will spare tenants the trauma of an eviction proceeding while ensuring payment to the landlord for back rent due. And whereas preventing displacement is in the interest of public health, racial justice, equity, and fairness. And whereas strong legislative action is required to prevent unnecessary evictions, foreclosures, displacement, and to ensure a more timely and equitable distribution of rental assistance funds. And whereas an act to prevent COVID-19 evictions and foreclosures and promote an equitable housing recovery, H 1434 and S 891, would protect public health, support tenants, homeowners, and small scale landlords alike. And whereas this act has garnered support from Northampton Mayor Narkowitz and 4 other mayors and town managers in the region, 94 representatives and senators, 20 from Western Massachusetts, including Senator Joe Comerford and Representative Lindsay Sabadosa, and over 50 Western Massachusetts groups and 150 statewide from every sector of our communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of Northampton asks the state legislature to move with all deliberate speed and urgency to pass S 891 and H 1434, an act to prevent COVID-19 evictions and foreclosures and to promote an equitable housing recovery. Be it further resolved that the administrative assistant of the City Council shall send a copy of this resolution to Governor Charles Baker, the co-chairs of the Joint Committee on Housing, Senator John Keenan, Representative James Arcerio, and the presenters of the bill, Representatives Frank A. Moran and Kevin G. Honan, and Senator Patricia D. Jelen, and Representatives Lindsay Sabadosa and Senator Joe Comerford.
Move to approve, please.
Second.
Motion's made by Councilor Dwight, seconded by Councilor Jarrett, I believe. I will look to the sponsors first. Councilor Jarrett.
Thank you. First, I want to give a big thanks to Pamela Schwartz of the Western Mass Network to End Homelessness. Thank you for all your help in helping us get this together and for speaking tonight as well in support. So the biggest thing for me is that, the money is there. The agencies need the time to build their capacity to get it to the property owners. And no one should be facing eviction when we have the resources to solve it. As the resolution states that there are no protections against foreclosure, though mortgage loans can be easily modified to extend the period of payments at the end of the term, as they were previously. So from a public health perspective, evictions create incredible stress in people's lives, and that ripples outward. Many folks would move in with friends and family in crowded conditions, which would increase the risk of COVID exposure and spread just as cases are rising again. So I'm strongly in support of these bills. I think they are specific in their protections, and they will help create more equitable outcomes. We are requesting 2 readings as we see the momentum building on this, and that building for the passage of these bills by the state legislature, and the sooner we get this passed, the better. So thank you.
Thank you. With Councilor Quinlan, then Councilor Thorpe.
Oh, I was gonna let him go first.
Counselor Thorpe, would you like to go first?
I will. I'll take it. I'll go first on that. And I want to start by thanking Pamela Schwartz as well. And I do want to thank Councilor Jarrett for taking the lead on this resolution. I also want to thank both Councilor Jarrett and Councilor Quinlan for asking me to co-sponsor with them. And I'm co-sponsoring this resolution because it is critical that in the midst of a pandemic, we support tenants to avoid a crisis that leaves families without a stable living condition. While we work our way through this pandemic, it's also critical to acknowledge that these times have been difficult for landlords too. These are not easy policy decisions, but it is more important than ever for us to protect the most vulnerable among us. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Quinlan, you're up.
Thank you. I too will just add to the thank yous to Pamela Schwartz. Thank you so much for this, and Councilors Jarrett and Thorpe for your partnership, and to Carolyn Mish, who answered a big question for us about at least the most recent information about households in Northampton as renters. So thank you for all of that. And, as I thought about this resolution and read through it, with Councilor Jarrett, I was thinking back to the joint meeting of community resources and city services. We talked about housing crisis, right, in this. We met with a number of local people that were concerned and had great information for us. And I remember just being so stunned by it, like, all these people are here and they're ready to help. And now here's $842 million and we're ready to help, but only 17% of it has been spent to help people so far. And so that, to me, it just points to the crisis upon the crisis here, and getting this money, to help people is just so important, and getting it done swiftly, but also, as stated in the resolution, fairly and equitably as well. Almost feels a little bit like I'm pretty hopeful about this council's response to this. It almost feels like we're late when you see the number of people that have already voiced support for this. So here we are, and again try to get our voice heard as well. Just means a lot to me, and so I ask my colleagues to join us in joining the chorus.
Thank you. Other Councilor Dwight?
Just briefly, thank you to the sponsors. Actually, to the point that Councilor Quinlan made, I'm grateful for the initiative, given the fact that it would have been better if we had actually pulled this off sooner. But the fact is, of course, these are shifting sands and shifting times. And the fact is that, to be perfectly honest, my ignorance allowed me to believe that the dispersal of these funds was active and going. And it was a program that was going to work, and shocked and disturbed with the fact that this money is just sitting here, literally earmarked for this use and not being employed. And the crisis, of course, is it impacts the very infrastructure of what we call community. The fact that people live with the stress of being, bound to our houses and bound to our apartments, and without knowing how COVID's going to shake out, and at the same time adding to that the really very real distress of the prospect of losing your home while you're trying to think of your children, your family, your shelter, and how you're going to survive in any other circumstance. I have no problem signing on to this declaration of urgency, and it makes brilliant sense. And I'm very grateful that you guys have given us the opportunity to vote in favor of this.
Thank you, Councilor Labarge. Oh, Councilor Labarge, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I want to thank Pamela Schwartz as always, and I want to thank the three sponsors. This is crucial. There's no question about it. And we heard Pamela Schwartz come out and tell all of us how serious it is. And I have to echo what I've heard from Councilor Dwight. The money's sitting there, $842 million. I am very honored to support this resolution. No family I don't care if it's just Northampton or anywheres, deserves to lose their home when there's $842 million sitting in the pot. So I will support this 100%. And thank you, Councilor Jarrett, Councilor Thorpe, and Michael Quinlan as sponsors. And I support the second reading.
Thank you. Councilor Nash.
Oh, I'm unmuted already. I'm glad I wasn't. Anyway, yeah, I want to thank the sponsors and Pamela Schwartz for her work on this, and also Senator Comerford and Representative Sabadoza for bringing this to our attention as well, and for their work on this. I really appreciate it when our resolutions can have such an immediate impact like they can tonight, especially if we do 2 resolutions. And I also want to say that while this is definitely in support of tenants who are at risk, it's also in support of the landlords who are back on their rents. That for a lot of folks, there are some people out there that are big property owners and they can weather this type of stuff. But as we know in Northampton, there's a lot of people who have 2-family, 3-family houses. And when you have bank payments and one of your tenants falls behind, if there's a way to keep that system going and keep that both that tenant and that property owner secure, as there is in this case, it's good for everybody. And that I too am really surprised that there is such a backlog bottleneck on these funds getting out to people. I know with the PPP loans that went out to businesses, they went out in a snap. Those funds practically, if you said you needed it, you had a check there within a few weeks. And the fact that around this particular concern that it's taking so long, that's a little disconcerting. And I'm glad that we're taking steps to help push this forward. So thank you. I will be supporting this, and thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Maori.
Just a quick thanks to the sponsors as well. I was really heartened to see this on the agenda. This has really become, this time has really become a real breaking point for a lot of people. So I know we had an earlier crisis and an ongoing crisis, but I think this is really obviously timely because of the bills, but also because of the state that a lot of renters find themselves. And I really appreciate in the House bill, at least, the simplification of the application process, which will expedite the applications, and the emphasis on sustainable forbearance plans. So it's not so that there's a kind of a nod to the future and how do we get out of this. And it's I was impressed with how thoughtful that was, and I will be supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments? I'll join in and thank the sponsors very much for bringing this resolution. I know that I've been watching this carefully, and it does maybe feel like we're a little bit behind the curve, but this is a very quickly moving crisis at a time during the summer when those who are privileged enough to be able to slow down are, but this is not slowing down at all. I first was hearing about these bills at a Housing First Task Force meeting not that long ago, just a few weeks ago. So again, this is moving quickly. And I just wanted to, in addition to thanking Pamela Schwartz, of course, and the sponsors, I also just wanted to make sure that people knew that there, in addition to the ERAP funds that we're sort of talking about here right now, that people also know that the city has a program that's administered by Community Action. And so I just want to make sure that people are aware of that, and they can find out more about this by contacting Community Action, but it's for people who live in Northampton, Florence, and Leeds, and they must be a renter. They have to be at least 30 days behind in their rent or their utilities, and have a total household income must be less than 80% of the area median income. But those are some maybe interim funds that can help someone out. So contact Community Action, Pioneer Valley. That number is 413-475 1570 if that can be any assistance to anybody. Again, thank you so much to the sponsors for this resolution. Any other comments? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura, on first reading.
Counselor Dwight,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Shiara,
Yes.
and Counselor Thorpe.
Yes.
Suspend
Move
the
to
rules.
suspend rules, please.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Labarge, seconded by Counselor Dwight to suspend rules. Any discussion on suspension of rules? Roll call please, Laura, on suspending rules.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Shara,
Yes.
Counselor Thorpe,
Yes.
and Counselor Dwight.
Yes. Move second reading, please.
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made by Counselor Dwight, seconded by Counselor Jarrett on second reading. Any discussion on second reading? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Shara,
Yes.
Counselor Thorpe,
Yes.
Counselor Dwight,
Yes.
and Counselor Foster.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously in two readings. Thank you all. Moving on, we are at number 10. This is interim procedure for conducting city council meetings. We started this discussion back in July, and I'll say what a difference a month makes. I feel like this is a very different discussion. We now have an indoor mask mandate in public spaces, regardless of vaccination status, which is due to the rise in cases nationally and in the state, driven by the highly contagious Delta variant. So, as Health Director O'Leary has noted, the pandemic is not over and it is evolving. And I certainly support that decision to require masks and to try and limit the spread here in Hampshire County. Before we sort of open this discussion, I also just want to take a moment to note that, being vaccinated is still the very best protection, and that the city is still offering vaccine clinics. They're at Pulaski Park on Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the city council chambers, where we are not, but where a vaccine clinic is on, that is on Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and also at the Northampton High School on Thursdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And there additionally are pop-up clinics that are happening at events and other locations, and you can see the city website for those locations. So yeah, let's open up this discussion again and talk about how we would like to proceed for the rest of the term. I know we had asked Al Williams from Northampton Open Media had been with us last time. He is here again. We had asked that, they were doing some work to figure out what could be done in our various buildings. And so I'm sure he's here to report on that, but we also should take in the new information that we have. But can someone make a motion to recognize?
I move to recognize Al Williams.
Second.
Second.
Motion's made by Counselor Dwight, seconded by Counselor Thorpe. Any discussion on recognition of Al? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Shara,
Yes.
Counselor Thorpe,
Yes.
Counselor Dwight,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
and Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
Okay, Al, you are recognized. I don't know if counselors, do we want to have, or should we hear from Al first and then continue our discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome, Al. Good to see you.
It's great to see all of you. Greetings to you all. So the short answer is that we're ready to go hybrid whenever the council wants to do that. we're prepared to do that. We know how it's going to work. We feel good about it. And, you'll see in terms of the council, you would see Zoom participants up on the screens that are in city council chambers. Anyone else who's in those chambers would also see them on those screens if there's audience there. Council could be on Zoom, but they would have to be muted and have their mics off and their speakers off if they chose to do that at their spaces. And people who are only watching on Zoom would see the center camera in the room, and they would see everyone who's in the room. And the audio works fine. It would travel both ways. People could also watch on YouTube or TV and still participate on Zoom. And someone from council would have to run the Zoom meeting in terms of management, recognizing people, raising hands, unmuting people, things like that, for things like public comment. But we're ready to go sort of whenever you are.
You are superstars. Thank you, Al. Anyone have any questions for Al? Oh, Jim, I'm sorry, excuse me, Councilor Nash.
Al, there was that issue of echoes and stuff that it sounds like you were able to address that.
Oh, sorry, hold up.
Yeah, it's just a matter. That's just a matter of we figured out how to get how to correctly route the audio. Essentially, is what we needed to look at. So that should be fine. And I'm not overly concerned about any audio issues at this point. As long as the audio issues would occur if you had a counselor who was on Zoom and had their mic open or a speaker up, could cause some issues that way. But otherwise, we should be okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Dwight.
Well, you were right in pointing out that we're in a vastly different place than we were a month ago, and then we were in a vastly different place than we were 2 months ago. And the fluidity here really recommends the fact, I think, that we stay remote for the time being. We now know that we have the means to go to do a hybrid version. But the fact is that things right now, there seems to be a new urgency and a new level of stress that's related to the Delta variant, among other issues, including aging out on the vaccines. Just like an hour ago, apparently the White House is going to recommend boosters for 8 months on the Pfizer and Moderna's and vaccines, and then the Johnson & Johnson ones basically would probably qualify sooner than later for a booster. But the fact is that you're seeing an increased amount of breakthrough exposures and cases in the hospital. The fact that actually this Hampshire County is one of the lowest COVID incident rates in the state, but we realize that this virus does not particularly care about boundaries, classes, or anything else other than the fact that all of us are convenient hosts. And I think it's appropriate that, given the circumstances, we're not too different. The circumstances are not too different than they were 8 months ago when we were waiting on a vaccine. And now that the vaccines have been administered and with pretty good participation in this part of the state, but the fact is that those vaccines are aging out, and the fact that the Delta variant is a wild variant, of course, and still a lot to be learned about it. I really don't see the upside in comparison with all the other issues to us meeting in person in the council chambers. Also, given the fact it's where the vaccine clinics are being conducted, as you pointed out, we don't want to do whatever we would that might contaminate a space. It actually needs to remain safe as well. And I don't see, it just seems to me that it's most appropriate to stay participating remotely for the time being. And as the situation changes, hopefully changes for the better, then it's clear that we have the means to do to do any variation of the meeting that would work, as long as it conforms with the Attorney General's regulations relative to remote participation. For the counselors, not so much for the public. As far as I know, the AG has not weighed in on public participation, but for council participation, we'll await the AG's decision.
Thank you. Councillor Labarge.
Yes, thank you. I highly support staying into remote. I think we are in a critical situation right now. And hearing our director, Meredith O'Leary from the Board of Health, to talk this evening at 5:20, 5:25 about social distancing again, and also of wearing face masks inside. Also, there is an uptick. Yes, here in Northampton, I've been told that there are 6 with the variants. I feel myself and for my family, which is very valuable, to keep them protected and keep all residents and children in the city to be safe from this variant. I feel we only have 8 more meetings to go, and that comes by very quickly. And hopefully that the COVID, the variant is gone by the time our new council starts up in January. But I really feel for the safety of all of us councilors, our families, we need to do what is right. And I'm very uncomfortable to have to go into council chambers, having public in there, not knowing who's vaccinated. I'm just uncomfortable with it. And I want to be able to have my family safe, all my friends, all my residents safe in this city. And I am going to follow, and I'm hoping everybody else does, of what our director of the Board of Health is telling everybody what to do. Get vaccinated. Also, too, we are being told that they are going to be giving the 3rd vaccinations very, very shortly. And I highly recommend, if you had both of the vaccinations, to get the 3rd one. Thank you.
Thank you. Other counselors? Councillor Quinlan. Councillor Foster.
Thank you. It's funny, as I was thinking about this over the last couple of days and what my feelings are. What was I going to say here in this moment? And a month ago, I was thinking, I know Councilor Labarge a month ago had said that she still had some uneasiness even 4 weeks ago about meeting in person. And now, the landscape has changed. And I think that was, pretty interesting that a month ago she had the same concerns that she's talking about again tonight. And they seem even more on point now than they did a month ago. And I was really thinking to myself, I really wanted to see your faces. I really wanted to read your body language when we're talking. We haven't, we've been robbed of so much of this nonverbal communication that we would share together. But I just don't think that this is a safe thing for us to do. I think we have got to respect the science and stay remote. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
Thank you. I would like to echo what the other counselors have said. And, I think as a counselor, this is sort of a multifaceted discussion because there's both us personally, but then also for our community. And knowing that, the Delta variant is there and spread is increasing. And, I think it's incredibly important for us as a community to reduce transmission as much as possible. That's certainly a factor in the ability for keeping the schools open. And I'm not saying there's a direct correlation between council meetings and keeping the schools open, but all of these sort of opportunities we have where we can reduce gathering, reduce potential for spread is going to be better for our community. And as community leaders, I think that that's a step we can take. And given that, I would say we've conducted the business of the council pretty effectively during this term. We pivoted pretty quickly, and that was really a joint effort between Northampton Open Media and our council president and everybody really working together to make that happen. But we've proven we can do this work remotely, and it makes sense to me. sort of for the community to do that. And then on a personal note, as somebody who lives with 2 children who are too young to be vaccinated, I've been personally hyper careful this whole time and continue to do so because there is that risk of bringing any kind of breakthrough infection home to my children as well. And that's very, very important to me.
Thank you, Councilor Maori.
Yeah, thank you to my fellow counselors. I'm so glad it's sounding like we're on the same page. And frankly, my view on this hasn't really shifted, although this is kind of sealing the deal with the variant. I mean, right, we have, 3 of us together we have 6 children who are, not able to be vaccinated. I have 1 vaccinated child, and that's not going to change, very soon. And the other thing to think about is really, what do we want to model at this point, to the rest of the community? It's a big statement for us, this kind of moving on statement, to go back into chambers when we all know we cannot guarantee the safety of ourselves or to the public. So I think we should also just remember that we're kind of modeling to the community what we need to see right now. And I think caution is what we need to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Nash and Councilor Thorpe.
Thank you, Council President. So, yeah, I last time we talked about this, I was looking forward to us all being in the same room again and being able to not only interact with each one of you, my colleagues, but also the public, and how valuable that is, and that I really miss that, and I think that we as a society really miss that level of interaction, and we're all still struggling with the fact that we've been doing that in very modified ways. But I am going to support the idea of us staying remote right now. That I think it's the right thing to do. There's unknowns, and also that I agree with Councilor Foster that we, under the stewardship of our council president, have been able to hold these remote meetings super effectively, and that the idea of being in the same room, the risks that are there, and the benefits in relationship to how effective we've been, I don't think it's worth taking that step. But I do look forward to the time when Councilor Labarge will be handing out her candies to her colleagues as well as the meeting gets late, so that we can all stay awake and focused. And also, as one of those folks who got the Alpha variant, I really encourage people to go out and get vaccinated. There's talk of it, oh, it's just like a cold. And for some people, it is nothing more than a cold. But I'll tell you, there were 2 months of my life that I was pretty debilitated because of it a year and a half ago. So, and a lot of people have died because of it. So getting vaccinated is a really good idea. So I'm going to support staying remote. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Thorpe.
So I agree with what all my colleagues said earlier, and I'm going to support that we stay remote. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Jarrett.
I think I'm the last one to weigh in. I also support staying remote for the rest of the year, and would be happy to make a motion to that effect if that's what we're going to do. Are we looking to make a motion?
Sure. Yeah, I think we can do that. Sure, let's do that.
Okay, I move that we stay remote until the end of this calendar year.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's made by Councilor Jarrett and seconded by Councilor Labarge. I will also just echo all that you said. And, as I've also been sort of thinking about this and trying not knowing what direction you all wanted to go in, one of the things that I was thinking about when the indoor mask mandate happened was accessibility for the public in terms of their access to see us. So if we were to be back in council chambers, we would need to be masked. And that would seem like a very hard thing for public, either in person or particularly over Zoom, to watch us all massed in a room and be able to really follow what was going on. So I think in terms of their accessibility to a public meeting, that it certainly makes sense. It is, I will admit that I too wanted to be back in person with you all and see your faces. And I'm wistful at the fact that I'm going to end my council career without having gone back in chambers. But this is, as some of you have said, is the right thing for us to model and the safe thing to do, not just for us and our families, but for the city. So I concur with what you all said, and I'm glad that we seem to be in agreement. Councilor Dwight.
To the motion, I will also express my wistfulness because taking it to the end of the term takes it to the end of my term. And, I actually, believe it or not, I actually have some fond attachment to the chambers themselves. I know that the chairs for the public are torturous and painful, and I know it has its own subset of challenges, but for councilors who don't know this, the original desks that we used to sit at they were there for generations, and inscribed in each of the drawers was the signatures of people who served on the council over the decades, and it had this sort of historical significance that sort of lent it the goofy gravitas that we're so famous for in this city. Maybe someday I'll have to come back and sign it post pandemic. But what I would like to ask you all to think of is that when you go back, when you get the chance to go back there, go fill out your names inside your drawer. That's just true. For posterity's sake. And then I do look forward to seeing you guys on the streets, out in town, mask to mask, and all things being equal, this is the right thing to do, and I think it actually gives us some clarity as how we're going to proceed for the remainder of the year, so it doesn't remain up in the air, so people know how to make plans around this. So I understand. I'll vote in the affirmative in this respect, but I do want to share with you my poignant sadness. So.
Councilor Nash.
Yeah, and I also want to put out a special thanks to Al and the folks over at Northampton Open Media for their work around this. I'm feeling a little guilty that we sent you down this track, and although you know what, no, I don't feel guilty. We all look like it was looking very hopeful, and that you guys did the work, and that. But thank you for making that effort. It sounds like we would have been able to do a pretty effective hybrid model, and it's very encouraging to know that it's available when we need it. And so thank you, Al, and everybody at NOM.
Thank you all. It's work we had to do anyway, I'll just say. So we're glad we had some time to do it instead of last minute.
Thank you, Al.
Okay, and I was going to ask you all to do this before this meeting, but I had a sense this is the direction we were going in, not surprisingly. So before this term, I am going to ask that we all get ourselves ready and come to a meeting early so that we can take a photo. As people who've been in council chambers know, there are photos all along the wall of different council terms. And I think it's important to document this term in the way that we have had it for most of the time. So we will take a Zoom screenshot and live in those chambers for posterity and mark this time. So I'll give you all warning so everyone can get like already. Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Nash.
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan.
Yes.
Councilor Shara.
Yes.
Councilor Thorpe.
Yes.
Counselor Dwight,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, we will be meeting remotely for the rest of this term. Thank you all for that discussion over these 2 meetings. Next up on the agenda is the consent agenda. I'll read the consent agenda and ask for removals for discussion because there's no discussion on the consent agenda. First is minutes of October 8th, 2020 and November 12th, 2020, special city council meetings that had never been accepted, and minutes of June 17th, 2021 and July 15th, 2021. Next is to amend the term of appointment to the Urban Forestry Commission. This amendment is to correct an error. Molly Hale's reappointment to the Urban Forestry Commission was approved by the council on June 17th, 2021, with the term expiration date of 2023. The term should end June 30th, 2024. So that's Molly Hale, Urban Forestry Commission, 96 Oak Street in Florence, term July 2021 to June 2024. That is a reappointment. Next, these are appointments to various committees. This is for referral to the City Services Committee. Monica V. Grazi Mulea, 573 Burt's Pit Road in Florence, term September 2021, June 2024. This is to fill a vacancy. Energy and Sustainability Commission. Benjamin Well, 125 Audubon Road in Leeds, July 2021 to June 2024. This is a reappointment. Planning Board, Melissa Fowler, 87 Chesterfield Road in Leeds. Full member term, July 2021 to June 2024. This is a reappointment. Christian Tate, 46 Upland Road in Leeds, associate member, July 2021 to June 2024. That's a reappointment. Transportation and Parking Commission, Jamie Albro Fisher, 50 Manhattan Street in Northampton. That term is July 2020 to June 2023. That's a reappointment. Adam Novit, 17 Hooker Avenue in Northampton, term July 2021 to June 2024, a reappointment. Whiting Street Fund Committee, Michael Shaughnessy, 575 Bridge Road, Unit 11-5, July 2021 to June 2024, a reappointment. Joseph Musterka, 312 Chesterfield Road in Leeds, July 2021 to June 2023, a reappointment. Andrea Murray, 54 Day Avenue, July 2021 to June 2023, a reappointment. The Zoning Board of Appeals, David Bloomberg, 86 Vernon Street, term July 2021 to June 2024. That is a reappointment. I am going to ask for the removal of Adam Novit. Are there any other removals? Councilor Jarrett?
Not exactly a removal, but I note that it's not the minutes of October 8th, 2020 that are linked to.
Oh.
It's the minutes of June 17th, 2021. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
There are 4 of them stacked there.
They're just in a different order. It's all
Yeah.
good. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
No worries. Were there any other removals? Councilor Dwight?
David Bloomberg, please.
Okay, David Bloomberg. Councilor Labarge, did you have a removal?
Yeah, why are we removing that?
You'll find out when we discuss them. We cannot discuss the consent agenda, so we remove things that need discussion.
Move approval of the consent agenda with the removals.
Second.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Councilor Dwight, seconded by Councilor Foster. Laura, roll call please on the consent agenda.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Shara,
Yes.
Counselor Thorpe,
Yes.
Counselor Dwight,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
and Counselor Maori.
Yes.
Okay.
Move approval of Adam Novit, please, for reappointment.
It's actually for referral.
That's a referral.
Oh, it's for referral. I'm sorry. Yes, that sounded good. Yes.
Motion's been made,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Nash. I just need to disclose that Adam Novit has contributed to my campaign. That doesn't exclude me from participating in referral, but I need to disclose the information.
Okay. Makes sense.
Any further discussion on the referral of Adam Novit? City Services. Seeing none, roll call please, Laura.
Counselor Quinlan,
Sorry. Yes.
Counselor Shara,
Yes.
Counselor Thorpe,
Yes.
Counselor Dwight,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
and Counselor Nash.
Yes.
Okay.
Move approval for the referral of David Bloomberg to the zoning board of appeals.
Second.
Second.
Motion's made by Counselor Dwight, seconded by Counselor Quinlan. Counselor Dwight?
So similarly, David Bloomberg is my attorney. In fact, I just met with him today, but I wanted to disclose that. But the fact is that there is no real or evident conflict, and I will vote, but the disclosure seemed appropriate.
Thank you, Counselor.
Any further discussion on this reappointment of David Bloomberg to Zoning Board of Appeals? Seeing none, roll call, please, Laura.
Counselor Shara,
Yes.
Counselor Thorpe,
Yes.
Counselor Dwight,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
and Counselor Quinlan.
Yes.
Okay. That moves forward. So we are now going to recess for the Committee on Finance. Laura, when you're ready, could you please take the role of Finance?
Counselor Labarge,
Here.
Counselor Quinlan,
Here.
Counselor Shara,
Here.
and Counselor Thorpe.
Here.
Okay, first up, we have approval of minutes from the previous meetings. There are 4 of these: June 4th, 2020 and November 12th, 2020. These are Finance Committee meetings like those other ones that had not been accepted. Then June 17th, 2021 and July 15th, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Barge, seconded by Counselor Thorpe. Any discussion on any of those minutes? Counselor Jarrett?
Okay, this time I think I actually see something that doesn't quite line up. Am I correct here? That
Okay,
it says
June
7
4th.
when it should be 17th.
Yeah, let me click and see if those are. Yeah, Laura can, so June, I think should be June 7th instead of the 17th, which is what was the description. Does that seem right, Laura?
Yes. Okay, got it.
So it's actually the minutes themselves, I believe, have the right date. It was what I just read that was incorrect.
Right.
Okay. Good, Eagle.
I think we met on the 17th. The 7th was a Monday.
Yeah, so I uploaded the wrong version of the minutes apparently. So if you want to wait for approval of the 17th, it looks like I mistakenly uploaded the 7th when I meant to upload the June 17th Finance Committee minutes.
So there was a meeting on the 7th.
There was.
There was, but there was all, you know what?
Finance.
Actually, maybe you might have approved the 17th at the last meeting, come to think of it. And I think maybe you never approved the 7th because there was a meeting on both of those dates. So actually, if you approve the 7th, then, and I think the 17th have already been approved. So, and the 7th have not.
Something meeting.
Wait a minute.
Who just said what?
We-
So shall we revise the motion? Or do you want to check on these and we will withdraw the motion and vote on them at the September 2nd meeting?
I know, we had.
Yeah. Good question. I think you'll be safe if you approve the June 4th, November 12th, June 7th, 2021, and July 15th, 2021 minutes. And then I'll check and see if, like, I think the June 17th might actually have been approved July 15th.
Okay. Who made that motion? Who made the motion that's on the floor right now?
Okay, Counselor Labarge and Counselor Thorpe.
Okay, Counselor Labarge, would you amend your motion to reflect, so which minutes are we taking out?
Instead of June 17th, you're approving June 7th.
So
The ones, yeah.
I make
The
a
others are the same, are
Okay.
as is.
Okay, so June 7th, June 4th, 2020, November 12th, 2020, and July 15th, 2021?
Yes.
Okay,
smokes.
so that's, do you amend that motion, Counselor Labarge?
Yes, I amend that. motion.
Excellent.
Second.
And second, excellent, okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Laura.
Counselor Thorpe,
Yes.
Counselor Dwight.
Oh,
I'm
finance.
not on this committee.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
and Counselor Shara.
Yes. Okay, on to financial orders. First up is 21.305. In order to reprogram CS surplus funds to CS 2005 vehicle replacement. Let me pull it up. This is upon the recommendation of the mayor, ordered that $8,526.25 of the surplus funds remaining in the Central Services HVAC Tech Van account and $9,473.75 of the surplus funds remaining in the Central Services Recreation Roof Field Project be reprogrammed and added to the original appropriation of $45,000 for the total of $63,000 for the Central Services replacement of the 2005 city maintenance vehicle.
Move a positive recommendation to the full city council.
Second.
Motion is made by Counselor Quinlan, seconded by Counselor Labarge. And I know that I saw Director Nardi here and also Mayor Narcoitz. I'm waiting for someone to pop up on the screen. That Counselor Jarrett just did that, but it was not the both. Hi, Mayor Narcoitz and Director Nardi. How are you?
Finance director's here, so she can certainly explain the transfer as well.
Excellent.
So Director Pomerantz has noted that there wasn't enough funding in the original vote for this vehicle. So he is asking for the additional funds to cover the extra cost, which is the cost of vehicles have gone up due to COVID.
That's the truth. Thank you. Any discussion, councilors? Counselor Quinlan.
Just a question as what type of vehicle are we talking about? Just what is the specific make and model?
So I actually don't have the details. I don't know if the mayor does, but I know this type of vehicle has it has an open bed in the back. It's more versatile for them to do storage and for not only for storage, but for also moving equipment. It also has utility boxes on it. So this will be a better vehicle than the vehicle that they're replacing.
I think it's sorry. Am I muted? No, am I there? Okay, great. I think it's one of the larger like Ford Transit service vans. We have them for like many contractors are now moving towards. And so it has, as the finance director says, it has it both has open space in the back, but it also has the rack system for all the tools and equipment and HVAC components and things like that. We've been slowly moving toward those, like many contractors are moving toward them as well. So yeah, I think that's the type that he's looking at on the bid list.
Great, thank you for that information.
Other discussion or questions? Councilor Labarge.
Yes, I see also they're asking for 2 readings on this order. Is that correct, Charlene? Okay.
Yes, it is, please.
Any other discussion in finance? Okay, seeing none, roll call please, Laura.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Shara,
Yes.
and Counselor Thorpe.
Yes.
Okay, that moves forward with a positive recommendation, and we are at 21.306. This is upon the recommendation of the mayor in order to appropriate transportation infrastructure enhancement funds to hotel bridge improvements. Whereas the city has received $2,382.50 from the Commonwealth Transportation Infrastructure Enhancement Trust Fund for trips conducted by transportation network companies in Massachusetts for the calendar year 2020, whereas the funds must be appropriated by city council upon the recommendation and approval of the mayor. Whereas the funds must be used to address the impact of transportation network services on municipal roads, bridges, and other transportation infrastructure, or any other public purpose substantially related to the operation of transportation network services in the city. Ordered that the amount of $2,383.50 be appropriated from the Commonwealth Transportation Infrastructure Enhancement Fund to be used for the costs related to the structural and road surface improvements of the hotel bridge to accommodate bicycle and pedestrian traffic.
Move with a full recommendation to city council. I just want to talk about this.
Sure, hold on one sec. Motion's been made by Councilor Labarge, seconded, I believe, by Councilor Thorpe. Yes, discussion.
Yes.
Go right ahead, Councilor Labarge.
Thank you. You know, it's my husband, his whole family, born and raised in Leeds, used that bridge. And to see it not being used is very heartbreaking for many, many older residents and even the generations that are living there. And I am very honored to support this. It's due to happen. It's due to happen, and we need to make it happen. And I'm very happy about receiving this order. So I am going to approve this, and it is a win-win situation on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Nardi, is there anything you want to add or information, or Mayor Narkowitz? Mayor Narkowitz, oh, there you go.
So just that this is, I think, the second or third time we've come to you with this. It's just a strange function of the way the rideshare money comes to us, and then it has to be appropriated. So we've just appropriated it to often bike ped or bridge projects or street projects. So it's not a lot of money, but we're still working on the aforementioned hotel bridge. The first bidding on it was not successful, so we're going to be going back out to bid, and doing a little bit more work on the project, but it's still very much a high priority. And so we just didn't get a very good response rate to the first bid. So the DPW is working with the engineer to go out to bid again to see if we can get a better result. So this is some additional money that will help support that project.
Excellent. Every little bit helps. Any questions or comments from any other counselors? Okay, seeing none. Roll call, please, Laura, on a positive recommendation.
Counselor Quinlan.
Yes.
Counselor Shara.
Yes.
Counselor Thorpe.
Yes.
And Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, that moves forward. Positive recommendation, and we are at 21.307 in order to reprogram $15,000 from Safety Village surplus to Sheldon Field dugout replacement. This is upon the recommendation of the mayor. Whereas the city is working with the students of Smith Vocational Agricultural High School to remove and replace the dugouts at Sheldon Field. Whereas the city will provide the materials and Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School students will provide the labor. Ordered that $15,000 of the remaining balance in the Central Services Rec 7 Safety Village Replacement Fund be reprogrammed to support the Sheldon Field dugout replacement project. Let's get a motion.
Second it.
Oh,
Move a
who made the
positive
motion?
recommendation to the full council.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Quinlan, seconded by Councilor Labarge. Councilor Labarge, did you have?
Yes, I do have a question. Maybe Shardine could explain, or the mayor, about the Safety Village Surplus Fund. I'd like somebody to explain that Safety Village Surplus. Where is this located?
Safety Village?
I
Or
would like- Yes.
Mayor Narcoitz?
I think it's referring to the surplus that was left over from the capital project to replace Safety Village. You may recall that one of the capital projects in last year's capital plan was to completely remove and replace the Safety Village buildings that had become deteriorated. And so that project was completed. The new buildings were installed. And so like some of the other capital projects, this was just surplus funds left over in that account that we now want to reprogram to another park and rec related project for those dugouts.
Okay.
So that's what it refers to. It's not a standing fund. It's just the surplus left over from that project.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Quinlan?
I was in the neighborhood of Sheldon Field the other day and noticed, and I just wanted to make sure that I understood that there are 3 different fields there, and one of them has like structured dugouts and the others are just like chain link fence dugouts. We're just replacing the 2 that are like wooden structures. Is that true? Yeah, thank you. And then I would also just note, this is really nothing related to the dugouts specifically, but this council received an email from Jeff Payne from Northampton Baseball about the conditions of the fields. And I think the dugouts are great, but I know that even the softball players that play there now are concerned about the condition of the field. So I'm hoping that at some point we'll see some money allocated to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Okay, roll call, please, Laura, on a positive recommendation.
Councilor Shara,
Yes.
Councilor Thorpe,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
and Councilor Quinlan.
Yes.
Okay, that moves forward with a positive recommendation, and we are at 21.308. In order to reprogram funds for safety netting for Florence Recreation Fields upon the recommendation of the mayor, ordered that $9,844 of the remaining balance in CS Rec 7 Safety Village replacement be reprogrammed to support the safety netting Florence Recreation Fields project. Their motion.
Move a positive recommendation to the full council.
Second.
Second that.
Motion's made by Councilor Quinlan, seconded by Councilor Thorpe. Discussion, Councilor Labarge.
Yes, I see that there's a request for 2 readings on this order also.
Okay.
Charlene? Ooh.
Charlene nodded her agreement that yes, there is a request for 2 readings when it goes to the full council.
Okay,
Thank you.
Counselor.
And also a thumbs up. Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura, on a positive recommendation.
Councilor Thorpe,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan,
Yes.
and Councilor Shara.
Yes. That moves forward to positive recommendation, and we're at 21.309, in order to authorize spending of $2,577.62 from equipment firefighting donation account on UTV and trailer upon the recommendation of the mayor, ordered that Northampton City Council, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, grants and gifts, acceptance and expenditure, authorizes the expenditure of $2,577.62 from the equipment firefighting donation account to be used together with the original appropriation of $26,500 to replace the 1998 quad with a UTV and purchase a trailer.
Move a positive recommendation to the full council.
I'll
Second.
second that. I'd like
Mo-
to,
Motion's made by Councilor Quinlan, seconded by Councilor Thorpe. Councilor Labarge.
yes, I'd like to talk to the mayor, please. On this order.
You have the floor and the mayor is here. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Please, go ahead.
Oh, where is he?
Oh, I can see him.
I cannot see him.
Let's see.
Okay, Mayor,
Yes, Counselor.
on this UTV and the trailer, when was that UTV purchased? That's the all-terrain vehicle, correct?
Yes, so it's, as the order states, it's replacing a 1998 quad vehicle. And so that was on the capital plan and approved on the capital plan. And sort of what you're seeing tonight with these orders is that, we go through the capital plan and we make estimates about what we think the vehicles or equipment will come in at. Then right after you approve the budget for cash capital of projects, we then, go out to bid to try to purchase them. And in some cases, particularly with vehicles, they're coming in more expensive than we thought back when these were all, spec'd out. And there's obviously a lot of issues around that right now during COVID with the shortage of vehicles and high demand for them. So this is one where there is just a small differential between what had been appropriated, the 26.5, to both cover the cost of the full balance of the quad vehicle and then to buy a trailer to go with it. So Fire Rescue has a donations account that people just make donations to them and say, grateful for how you helped us out. We want to make a donation. And so the chief would like to use the donation fund to cover this small gap in the funding for this vehicle. And they use it for large events. They use it when they have to go out onto a bike trail. If there's somebody that gets injured out on one of the rail trails, or even on one of our, off-road recreational trails or in the meadows, it's an important piece of equipment for them to be able to perform, rescues that a traditional vehicle or ambulance may not be able to get to.
Right. And also to Mayor Councilor Delight, if you can recall, way back in 1998, where there was a fire on Loudville Road toward the West Hampton line and Turkey Hill Road, which I know, Mayor, for a fact that the mayor was involved of evacuating Turkey Hill Road residents, and we did not have all-terrain vehicles with the fire department at that time. We had many people from out of town coming in with their all-terrain vehicles to help the fire department getting up to the big hill up there, the mountain up on the West Hampton side. I had the ice cream bikers in Northampton who came to me and said that they were very willing to go ahead and do a huge contribution of riding their bikes. And they did. They donated a good amount of money over on King Street. Then the fire department was so happy, and I do have pictures of that. And the fire department was so happy of receiving that new all-terrain vehicle. Plus, Mayor, our residents on Turkey Hill Road also donated for a safety bed, so that all-terrain vehicle, if this ever happened again, we had a bedding to put an injured person on it and bring him down the hill, down the mountain. So there is history there about that all-terrain vehicle. And that's why I was wondering if that's the one that was contributed to the city way back, and also some money taken from capital improvements at that time added on to that, because they never had one. That was the first one that we had given them because about that fire.
It's the only one they have, so I would assume that is the one in question. And thanks for reminding us of that history. And obviously thanks to the generosity of your residents and the folks out there who wanted the department to have that piece of equipment. So it's just, as right now it's 21 years old, 22, whatever the number of years old it is, and so it's time to replace it. So that's what this would do.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura, on a positive recommendation.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Councillor Quinlan.
Yes.
Councillor Shara.
Yes.
And Councillor Thorpe.
Yes.
Okay, that moves forward with positive recommendation, and we are at 21.314 in order to reprogram funds for Florence Fire Station repaving. Ordered that $11,658.52 in the reserve for bond premium and $3,061.48 remaining in the CS Forbes window project FY20 be reprogrammed and added to the original appropriation of $65,000 for a total of $79,720 for the Florence Fire Station repaving project.
Move a positive recommendation to the full council.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Quinlan, seconded by Councilor Labarge. Any questions or discussion on this? Also reprogramming of funds. Oh, Councilor Mary.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So this is simply repaving. It's not being widened. No, there's no major structural changes on the street there, just a repaving, correct?
That is correct. Basically the parking lot itself is significantly deteriorated, and so it's a repaving. There's no expansion or anything like that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, roll call please on a positive recommendation.
Councilor Quinlan,
Yes.
Councilor Shara,
Yes.
Councilor Thorpe,
Yes.
and Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, that moves forward with the positive recommendation, and that is it for the finance agenda.
Move to adjourn finance.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Quinlan, seconded by Councilor Thorpe. Laura, roll call on adjourning finance, please.
Councilor Shara,
Yes.
Councilor Thorpe,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
and Councilor Quinlan.
Yes.
Okay, we are back in the full city council and we're going to pick up those financial orders on first reading. So 21.305, in order to reprogram CS surplus funds to CS 2005 vehicle replacement.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's made by Councilor Labarge, seconded by Councilor Quinlan. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura, on first reading.
Councilor Thorpe,
Yes.
Councilor Dwight,
Yes.
Councilor Foster,
Oh, hold on.
Thank you. Yes.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Nash,
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan,
Yes.
and Councilor Shara.
Yes, there's been a request for two readings.
Motion to suspend
Move
rules.
to suspend rules, please.
Second.
Motion's made by Councilor Dwight, seconded by Councilor Maori. Any discussion on suspension of rules? Roll call please on suspending rules.
Councilor Dwight,
Yes.
Councilor Foster,
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Nash,
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan,
Yes.
Councilor Shara,
Yes.
and Councilor Thorpe.
Yes.
Move to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion
Second.
was made by Councilor Labarge, seconded by Councilor Dwight to move second reading. Any discussion on second reading? Roll call please, Laura.
Councilor Foster,
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Nash,
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan,
Yes.
Councilor Shara,
Yes.
Councilor Thorpe,
Yes.
and Councilor Dwight.
Yes.
Okay, that passes in two readings and we're at 21.306 in order to appropriate transportation infrastructure enhancement funds to hotel bridge improvements.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Barge, seconded by Councilor Dwight. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Nash,
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan,
Yes.
Councilor Shara,
Yes.
Councilor Thorpe,
Yes.
Councilor Dwight,
Yes.
and Councilor Foster.
Yes.
Okay, that passes in first reading. 21.307 in order to reprogram $15,000 from Safety Village surplus to Sheldon Field dugout replacement. Councilor Jarrett?
I'm wondering, in effort to save time, if we could move the remainder of the financial orders as a group and then do the suspension of rules and second reading as a group as well. Is that permitted?
Can do that.
Yeah, that's,
If that's a motion, I'll take it.
Okay, yes,
If you
I
want to
make
move
the
the,
motion that 21.307, 308, 309, and 314 be moved as a group.
so move. Second,
motion made by Counselor Jarrett, seconded by Counselor Dwight to move them as a group. We need to vote on that motion to move them as a group, or is we just the motion?
that's the motion. Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion on any of those four? Counselor Nash.
Yes, so I want to speak briefly to the new dugouts down at Sheldon Field. I want to echo what Counselor Quinlan said, that, you know, I've had a number of people, a number of residents reaching out to me about improving ball field conditions and things like that. And I met with a constituent down at that particular softball field. And I just want to say, I really appreciate the solution here, that having students from Smith Voc working on this project that's needed. It needs to get done. It's very much keeping the money, the investment within Northampton, and it provides a great opportunity for the Smith Voc students. So yay for coming up with this particular plan, and I look forward to more like this.
Thank you, Councilor Nash. Any other discussion on any of these items? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura, on first reading of these four items.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Councillor Maori.
Hold on. Councillor Maori is, I see her in the meeting, but I don't see
Okay, so maybe
her.
yes,
She might have lost. Oh, there she is.
Yes.
Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Councillor Quinlan.
Yes.
Councillor Shara.
Yes.
Councillor Thorpe.
Yes.
Councillor Dwight.
Yes.
Councillor Foster.
Yes.
And Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
Okay, first, those pass in first reading.
Move to suspend rules for those four.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Jarrett, seconded by Councilor Dwight to suspend rules for this, for second reading on these four. Any discussion on suspension of rules? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura.
Councillor Maori.
Yes.
Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Councillor Quinlan.
Yes.
Councillor Shara.
Yes.
Councillor Thorpe.
Yes.
Councillor Dwight.
Yes.
Councillor Foster.
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
And Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Rules are suspended.
Move second reading on those four items, please.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Dwight, seconded by Councilor Thorpe on second reading. Any discussion on second reading for these four items? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura.
Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Councillor Quinlan.
Yes.
Councillor Shara.
Yes.
Councillor Thorpe.
Yes.
Councillor Dwight.
Yes.
Councillor Foster.
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
And Councillor Maori.
Yes.
Okay, bravo. Those pass in two readings. And we are moving on to financial orders on second reading, 21.303, in order to surplus city land for affordable and attainable housing at Chapel Street, Oak Street, and Evergreen Road.
Move approval, please.
Second.
Motion is made by Councilor Dwight, seconded by Councilor Thorpe. Any discussion on second reading? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura.
Councillor Quinlan.
Yes.
Councillor Shara.
Yes.
Councillor Thorpe.
Yes.
Councillor Dwight.
Yes.
Councillor Foster.
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Councillor Maori.
Yes.
And Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Okay, that passes in second reading, and we're on to orders. 21.310, warrant for.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Madam President, I'm just curious. I just want to verify, did we get all the second readings captured in that? Just want to make sure. I was losing track a little bit.
I know.
So, A 20.305 had 2 readings, and then we skipped down to C, D, E, and F were taken as a group, and 2 readings were done on all 4.
Just wanted to verify. I kind of, when they got consolidated, I lost track of that. So, okay.
I did too.
Laura,
Okay.
you can verify that, right? We just did the
Every financial order except the transportation enhancement was done in 2 readings. Or transportation infrastructure.
Okay.
By chair.
Great.
Thank you. Sorry to.
No worries. So we are at 21.301, warrant for September 28th, 2021 preliminary election. This is a first reading, and this is upon the recommendation of City Clerk Pamela L. Powers. Ordered that a meeting of the inhabitants of the City of Northampton qualified to vote will be held on Tuesday, September 28th, 2021, in the several polling places designated by the City Council as follows. Ward 1, Precinct A, Jackson Street School Auditorium. Ward 1, Precinct B, Jackson Street School Auditorium. Ward 2, Precincts A and B in Smith Vocational Agricultural High School, Building B. Ward 3, Precinct A in the Senior Center at 67 Conn Street in the Great Room. Same with Precinct B of Ward 3. Ward 4, Precincts A and B in the Senior Center, 67 Conn Street. A is in Patty's Front Room, and B is in Activity Room number 1. Ward 5, Precinct A in Florence Civic and Business Building at 90 Park Street. Ward 5, Precinct B in Smith Vocational Agricultural High School, Building B. Ward 6, Precinct A and B in Robert K. Finn Ryan Road School Gymnasium. Ward 7, Precinct A in John F. Kennedy Middle School Community Room. Ward 7, Precinct B in Leeds School Gymnasium, lower level. The polls will be opened at 7 o'clock in the forenoon and closed at 8 o'clock in the evening of the said day. And all such members will, in the several wards and precincts in which they are individually entitled to vote between said hours, given their votes for the nomination of candidates for mayor and candidates for councilor at large.
Move approval, please.
Okay.
Motion made by Councilor Dwight, seconded by Councilor Labarge. I believe I saw City Clerk Pam Powers here in the meeting. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Councilor Quinlan, then Councilor Dwight, then Councilor Mary. Okay, Councilor Quinlan.
I just wondered about this not including any early voting. Is there no early voting for a preliminary election?
That's coming next.
That's coming next.
Spoiler alert. Next item.
On this same order, though, it just kind of confused me a little bit that it wasn't in this warrant.
Clerk Powers, are you available? I don't see Clerk Powers at the moment. So then it's contained in the next.
Yes.
There. Warrant.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you? I am here. I just needed to be unmuted, so here I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't see.
That's okay.
I couldn't see you.
I'm probably on the next screen.
Welcome. Did you hear Councilor Quinlan's question?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Sure.
It was just a question about preliminary voting in this, early voting in this preliminary election, how it's in a separate warrant. Why wouldn't it be in this one when this one talks about voting on that day? I didn't understand why they weren't contained in one order.
So the early voting warrant that I have put together has both the early voting dates and times for the September preliminary and the November election.
Right.
Dates and times. And since I'm trying to get as much advance notice to the public out there as possible, I decided to keep it separate from the warrant for the election day. In addition to that, the location for the early voting is different than the on-day voting for the September 28th preliminary. So.
Thank you.
You, Councillor Dwight.
Just wanted to congratulate Clerk Powers as appointee as opposed to elected Clerk Powers in your first official act as an appointed clerk, and congratulations.
Well, thank you. I think I'm still elected until you guys decide otherwise.
Oh,
That's going to be a decision in the coming future, but thank you for the thumbs up on the fact that the position itself is now an appointed position. It's good for the city.
I agree, and I was just trying to be prescient and maybe put my thumb on the scale a little. Sorry.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes, Pamela, did you rip up all your nomination papers?
I did.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions or comments to the warrant? Councillor Murray, did I see your hand earlier, or was it Councillor Jarrett? Councillor Jarrett, go ahead.
I noticed in the past that we have had no school on some election days, such as in 2020. But I don't see that in this year's school calendar for either of these days. Is there any concern about a conflict between the school usage and the voting?
Generally, there hasn't been in the past. I didn't notice the November 2nd. Are you sure that date is the date the schools aren't closed? They usually have a professional day for the general, but not for a preliminary, because it's undetermined at that point whether or not we would actually have an election.
Looking at the calendar that I see, which was revised August 4th, 2021, it does show that there is school on November 2nd. I'm sure it can be accommodated. I was just curious because the previous year there was no school.
Right. We usually don't have school on election day for the general election. I'm surprised that didn't happen this year, but unfortunately, we don't impact the school's scheduling at all. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? This is the warrant for the September 28th preliminary. Okay, seeing none, roll call, please, Laura.
Councillor Shara.
Yes.
Councillor Thorpe.
Yes.
Councillor Dwight.
Yes.
Councillor Foster.
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Councillor Maori.
Yes.
Councillor Nash.
Yes.
Councillor Quinlan.
Yes.
Okay, that passes in first reading. Clerk Powers, will the taking our second vote at the September 2nd meeting will give you enough time? Okay, great. So we have done the first reading on that, and we're moving on to 21.311 warrant to set early voting dates, times, and locations in Northampton. This is on first reading upon the recommendation of City Clerk Pamela L. Powers. Whereas on July 29th, 2021, Governor Charlie Baker signed a supplemental budget to allow communities to provide no excuse in-person and mail-in early voting for all municipal preliminary and regular elections until December 15th, 2021. And whereas Northampton has a citywide preliminary election on September 28th, 2021, and a biennial municipal election on November 2nd, 2021, and whereas early in-person voting provides expanded opportunity for voters to cast a ballot in their preferred manner when they cannot go to the polls on election day. Whereas voter engagement is the cornerstone of our democracy, and voters should not have to sacrifice voting in person in order to safeguard their health during the public health emergencies caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Ordered that in-person early voting shall be as follows: before the September 28th, 2021 preliminary election, Tuesday, September 21st, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the Senior Center at 67 Conn Street. Wednesday, September 22nd, 8:30 a.m., 4:30 p.m., Senior Center, 67 Conn Street. Thursday, September 23rd, 8:30 a.m., 4:30 p.m., Same location, Senior Center, Con Street, Friday, September 24th, 8:30 a.m., 4:30 p.m., Senior Center on Con Street. Before the November 2nd, 2021 biennial municipal election, on Saturday, October 23rd, from 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at the Senior Center at 67 Con Street. Sunday, October 24th, from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Senior Center. Monday, October 25th, Tuesday, October 26th, Wednesday, October 27th, Thursday, October 28th, and Friday, October 29th. That is all from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the Senior Center at 67 Con Street.
Move to approve.
Motion was made by Councillor Quinlan, I believe, and seconded by Councillor Labarge.
Thank you.
Any discussion on these or questions for City Clerk? Councillor Foster.
This is early voting adjacent as a question. I think all these opportunities are great. And Pam, I just had a question for you about what the process for this election would be for voters requesting a mail-in ballot as well.
So the Secretary of the State's office is going to mail out advisory postcards to every household that contains a voter that will let them know that the no excuse voting guide or protocol is in place, and to let them know that they can either go on the state's website or contact their town clerk's office to request an application. So if in fact they choose to get a mail-in ballot and choose to vote by mail, that's an opportunity for them. In addition, they can also go in person as an option for them to vote. If they order a mail-in ballot and then decide to go to the polls, just as we did in 2020, that will be an option as well.
And is that for both the preliminary and the general election?
It is, yep.
Thank you.
So the state will be mailing out those postcards, as I mentioned, advising folks what the September 28th early voting dates are. So I would ask that you consider 2 readings for tonight, because they're waiting for us to define those dates in order for the postcard to be printed and mailed.
Okay. Any other questions on these early voting dates and times and locations? Okay, seeing none, roll call on first reading, please, Laura.
Councillor Thorpe,
Yes.
Councillor Dwight,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Quinlan,
Yes.
and Councillor Shara.
Yes.
Move to suspend the rules, please.
Second.
Motion is made by Councillor Dwight, seconded by Councillor Thorpe on suspending rules. Any question? Roll call on suspending rules, please.
Councillor Dwight,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Quinlan,
Yes.
Councillor Shara,
Yes.
and Councillor Thorpe.
Yes.
Move second reading, please.
Yes.
Motion's made by Councillor Dwight, seconded by Councillor Labarge on second reading. Any discussion? Roll call, please, on second reading.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Quinlan,
Yes.
Councillor Shara,
Yes.
Councillor Thorpe,
Yes.
and Councillor Dwight.
Yes.
Okay. Wait, was that suspension or second reading? That was second reading,
That's
right? Okay. That warrant passes in 2 readings. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Powers.
Have a good night.
Good night. Okay, and we are at 21.312 in order to submit a measure to the voters 2021 regular city election. This is upon the recommendation of Mayor David J. Narcoitz and Councilor William H. Dwight. Whereas pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 164, Section 35, on June 4th, 2020, and on May 6th, 2021, the City Council authorized by 2/3 vote the establishment of a municipal light plant. And whereas Section 35 also requires that the City Council authorization be ratified by a majority of the voters at an annual or special election. Now, therefore, in accordance with Section 9-5 of the City Charter, the City Council orders that the following question be submitted to the voters at the 2021 regular city election. Question, A, yes vote on this question is non-binding, a no vote is binding. Do you vote to ratify the 2 prior affirmative votes of the City Council authorizing the city to take all necessary and appropriate action to establish and maintain, in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 164 of the general laws, in accordance with the rules, regulations, and orders of the Department of Public Utilities and Department of Telecommunications and Cable, a municipal light plant for all purposes allowable under the laws of the Commonwealth, including without limitation, the operation of a telecommunications system and any related services? Summary. Question number would authorize but not require the city to establish a municipal light plant, which is a city-owned company that can provide utility services, including telecommunication systems and internet to businesses and households. A yes vote does not obligate the city to establish a municipal light plant. The city cannot form a municipal light plant without voter ratification of the 2 prior city council votes in favor. A no vote would prohibit the city from forming a municipal light plant. A yes vote would indicate your support for authorizing a municipal light plant. A no vote would indicate your opposition to the authorizing municipal light plant.
Move approval, please.
Second it.
Motion made by Councilor Dwight and seconded by Councilor Labarge. Councilor Dwight.
I know there's some questions here. This is rather arcane and complicated language that, and you'll note that we've already done 2 votes. 2 votes, at least 2 votes on this and discuss this. This is actually, it's directly relevant to the establishment of municipal Wi-Fi, municipal internet broadband system. This is state mandated language that's the municipal light plant is actually a rather archaic idea of what this is. We're not going to be generating light or power. We could, I suppose, if it's authorized, but the fact is this is the system by which we're allowed to establish a municipal broadband internet system in the city. If we should get now, that's still in process, ascertainment issues and discussions, and this is where we're asking the community by law to weigh in on this. So it's going to be incumbent upon us to basically explain just what the hell this is when someone comes and looks at their ballot and goes, what in the bejesus am I supposed to be voting for? What
exactly?
If I say yes or no, I don't know what I'm going to say. So it's incumbent on us to provide the education and campaign to promote what this question actually says. Are you in favor of establishing a municipal internet broadband system for the city of Northampton? That's the essence of what this is.
Exactly.
Thank you. Councilor Labarge.
Thank you, Councilor Dwight. I had a couple of residents that approached me on this, on our agenda, and saw this, and had one of them came to my house the other day and we were talking. He wanted to know where the money was coming, that we're putting up a new plant. So this is what I'm hearing, and you're absolutely correct, Councilor Dwight. The language is confusing here, and it is going to be up to us to explain to them what this is all about. So I just wanted to give you an example. 2 people actually think that they want to know where the money's coming from, that we're building a plant.
Mayor Narcoitz.
The city solicitor did provide a slight modification to the, not to the question, because the question is not really modifiable. It's the statute calls it a municipal light plant, and so that's what you have to, that's the language you have to use. But he did break out in the summary, and he basically took the reference to the internet piece and just basically created a separate sentence and says the municipal light plant, if approved, would be able to provide internet to businesses and households in the city. So it already said that, but just in case there was any confusion. So he's offered that as a possible modification to the summary of the question, if that makes it clearer to people what this is about. I will say this is the same language. I mean, the base language is the same language that East Hampton voted on in 2019. It was their question 4. It was adopted unanimously. And again, it was required as part of their due diligence for studying municipal broadband.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Maori?
Yeah, so I see in the amended version above summary, the paragraph above summary, it says municipal lighting plant. I mean, I would think that we'd want uniformity with how we're referring to it, and that municipal light plant.
Must be a typo. It was on the screen and then it came back down, so it may have gotten altered slightly in the addition. I don't have it open in front of me, but certainly it sounds like a Scrivener's error there.
Right. Right.
Saw that in the amended version that the mayor just showed, or that?
Yeah, it's still in the amended version.
Okay.
A paragraph before the amended language. It says municipal lighting plant.
Yeah, I see it.
That really might make them think that we're gonna have something to do with lighting.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I mean, it actually says that in both versions.
Oh, does it?
I suspect
Light plant.
that was probably an autocorrect or something that just did lighting instead
That
of
makes
light. So if you wanted to correct that error, that would be good. And if you wanted to amend to have this additional clarification, you could do that at the same time.
Does someone want to make that motion?
Move to amend. Move to amend.
Second.
Yeah.
Motion made by Councilor Mayor and seconded by Councilor Dwight to include the amendments that the city solicitor wrote that we just read. Okay. Councilor Labarge, is this to the amendment?
No, I'm going to talk after.
The other thing I just noticed, and the word systems in the question is plural, and I don't know if it just grammatically doesn't read right to me. So either the A has to be taken out before telecommunications system, or the plural, I think, just the way it reads. It says of a telecommunications systems. So I suspect the systems should be made singular and not plural.
Okay, we'll add that as a Scrivener's error.
Want to get it right, because once we give it to the clerk, that she's bound to put it on the ballot that way. So
Great. So right now what's on the floor is the question of the amendment. Is that right, Laura?
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion on that amendment? Can we get a roll call on that? Oh, yeah, Laura?
Is it correct municipal light plant or municipal lighting, which is correct?
it's light.
Light, thank you. Gotcha.
I think we're ready for a roll call on the amendment. Thank you.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Nash,
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan,
Yes.
Councilor Shara,
Yes.
Councilor Thorpe,
Yes.
Councilor Dwight,
Yes.
and Councilor Foster.
Yes.
Okay, discussion as amended. Councilor Labarge?
Yes, I just want to thank the mayor because I had talked with our council clerk in regards to people having great concerns about the language of the plant and where we are getting the money. And she did notify the mayor, and I'm very pleased to see that Attorney Alan Sewald responded of adding on that amendment to that. So thank you, Mayor, very much.
Councilor Nash?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Councilor Dwight said, that we're going to have to work on some messaging here. I think it's good we added that amendment because it means that at least we understand what we're voting on. And that basically that's what, what we have to explain to folks, that, this is not about a light plant. This is about the internet and having a fair, equitable system that is updated and modern and really provides great service. So anyway, yeah. So time to talk, counselors.
We're good at that.
Yeah, we are. This is something good to talk about. Thanks.
Any other discussion? I will add that this is exciting in this very long awaited multi-year process that the voters get to actively participate with their vote and help move forward this process and possibility for municipal broadband. But as has been noted, we need to make clear to them what this means and that this is not the building of a power structure. This is this important next step for us to be able to decide as a city to move forward with municipal broadband. So as Councilor Nash said, we have our work cut out for us to do some public education around this. Any other discussion? Councilor Foster.
Thanks. I just want to be sure that I understand as we do have our work cut out for us, because I would imagine that the first question is going to be, what will it cost? But that we're anticipating that the cost of municipally provided broadband would be covered through subscription to it. Am I understanding that piece correctly, or is there an upfront cost that we'd be asking voters to cover?
Mayor Narkowitz.
So, we're still, we finished the market survey and the consultant Design 9 that we hired is right now doing the feasibility phase of the study. And so they're working on that right now and will be able to, obviously present us those recommendations when they complete the study. I think it'll be done by the end of the year. So this is not, this is a, as it says in the question, it's a non-binding question. It's binding if it fails, but it's non-binding if it passes. But it's a thing that can really only be done at a municipal election unless you want to pay for and call a special election. So we're sort of doing this just sort of preemptively because, just like we took those other two votes that can be only taken in separate fiscal years leading up to this vote. So this will not commit the city to it or commit the city to any spending, but it's a required vote if and when the feasibility study comes back, and then we figure out how it's going to happen, including what it will cost and what the funding might look like, or at least the capital outlay, as well as what the subscription model would look like, et cetera. So I think that will also be important to explain to people. But it's the legal mechanism in Massachusetts. If we wanted to set up municipal broadband, we would have to have this in place. There are lots of communities around us that already have municipal light plants. Holyoke, Chicopee, Westfield, they already have their own gas and electric companies, so they already have this. We're a city that doesn't have that, and so that's why we need to, like East Hampton, we have to take this vote to have this in place potentially if and when a system like this were deployed. So we don't really have those answers. Folks can go, you can direct folks to the web page that we've set up about the municipal broadband, which will kind of give people kind of an up-to-date status. We'll be posting the final report for at least the market study, which is still being finalized and edited, but that basically was, the survey of city residents and businesses who pretty overwhelmingly said they wanted other choices and they, would be very interested in a municipal option. So, I know it feels a little bit out of order, but it's really because we only have municipal elections every 2 years, not putting it on this ballot could really delay things in terms of moving forward. So definitely messaging will have to be worked on there. And I know that our friends at Northampton Networks will certainly be providing that as they have throughout the process. mangled the name of their organization, but they've been out there lobbying for it. And I'm sure they will be doing letter writing campaigns and really trying to call attention to the importance of this vote.
Councilor Dwight.
Yeah, to put it in the simplest terms, this is one of the hoops that the state requires that we leap through, but in fact does not commit us to anything. It just provides us an opportunity when and if it's determined that it's economically feasible and we have the means of paying for it and it makes sense in the cost benefit analysis, that we can go ahead unencumbered with the hoops already secured. You know, truth be told, we could, like a number of other communities that have established municipal light plants, they haven't done anything with it. But they just, it's in our pocket. And as the technology evolves and the costs go down, it would always be good to have this have this status of at least leaping through this hoop before the state starts developing new ones for us, or the federal government. So that's essentially it. So, I mean, I would explain to the constituents, this commits not a cent, not a sou to the establishment of this. It just allows us to do it should it be determined that it makes sense.
Thank you. Councilor Nash. You're muted.
Yes, so this vote will allow us to create the entity, but the decision to move forward will be made by city council in the future based on the feasibility studies?
Yes.
Yes.
At that point, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, roll call please, Laura.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Nash,
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan,
Yes.
Councilor Shara,
Yes.
Councilor Thorpe,
Yes.
Councilor Dwight,
Yes, please.
and Councilor Foster.
Yes.
Okay, that passes in first reading. And we are at 16 zoning ordinances not yet referred. So this is 21.313, an ordinance to amend the zoning map, section 350-3.4 at Chapel Street for referral.
Move to refer, please.
Second it.
Motion made by Councilor Wright, seconded by Councilor Labarge. And to where are we referring?
Oh, I'm sorry, I should have said that. I'll refer to legislative matters at the least.
And
It's
to go to
planning.
planning.
Planning, right.
Okay. Councilor Nash?
Yeah, and I'd be happy to see this over at Community Resources as well, since it's a zoning matter.
Okay, right now, so the motion is,
The motion set.
I don't know, we sort of did it backwards. It was,
My original motion was to refer to legislative matters and to planning. Actually, planning first, then legislative matters.
Right.
Sure. And Community Resources, can I ask why?
Since it's a zoning matter, and that we tend to vet zoning matters with Community Resources.
I'm fine with that, whatever. I think it's a redundancy that's unnecessary, but I would say fine.
okay. A reluctant fine. So, motion is to go to planning, legislative, planning, the timing will have to be figured out. So community resources, then planning and legislative matters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please, Laura, on this referral.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Shara,
Yes.
Counselor Thorpe,
Yes.
Counselor Dwight,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, that has been referred and I see no further business on the agenda.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Dwight, seconded by Counselor Thorpe to adjourn. Roll call please on adjourning, Laura.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Shara,
Yes.
Counselor Thorpe,
Yes.
Counselor Dwight,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all. See you
Thank you.
September.